Good morning, my YouTube viewers. It is Palestine here. Welcome to my channel. I've got so many things that I would like to talk about and so much to talk about. But basically, in this video, what I want to talk about is Dr. Jessica Taylor's book, Click, Stalk, Destroy. Obviously, I haven't read the book because I can't afford to buy it, but I did actually read the reviews of the book. I read the reviews of the book, and then I went onto YouTube, and then I watched some interviews that Dr. Jessica Taylor made about the book and some podcasts. So I found out a little bit more about the book just watching what she had to say about it. And basically what she was talking about was her research on online stalking, her personal experiences, and the personal experiences of others. And so basically one of the things she said was your stalker can be anybody. It can be people that you know, people that you don't know, and especially if it's online. And that's what I found to be the case when I was working at Foster Wheeler, that I was stalked, and it was not a pleasant experience. And then I found out that the stalking was also in my place of work, and I couldn't do anything about that. And as far as I know, my place of work initiated the stalking, although it could have been other people, a group of people outside my place of work. And then she said that stalking has become a pastime, and that is one thing that I believe to be true. And then she didn't call it gang stalking, because if she called it gang stalking, she would lose credibility. But basically that's what it is. It's become a pastime, it's a hobby, and it's gang stalking. And that's what happened to me when I was in Foster Wheeler. I got gang stalked at Foster Wheeler by employees of Foster Wheeler. And since they were carrying out this stalking in Foster Wheeler, I find Foster Wheeler to be vicariously liable. And because of the really nasty, awful communication that I got from Foster Wheeler, which has been removed from my apartment, I would like to add, and then because of the way people at work treated me, I believe, I'm pretty confident that Foster Wheeler initiated this gang stalking when they didn't have any further use of me, because Foster Wheeler was being sold to AMEC, and I guess they thought they wouldn't need my position anymore, so they decided they would make a little bit of money in the process. So basically, I got gang stalked at Foster Wheeler. I've been stalked in other places as well, but like the United States Air Force. But gang stalk Foster Wheeler is the most recent occurrence of gang stalking that I have endured. And before that, it was stalking by other people, but I'm not sure if it was gang stalking, but it was definitely stalking by other people. And but basically Jessica Taylor said that you can have groups of people stalking you, which is gang stalking. And she said that it's a pastime. It's a pastime. And these people feel justified in doing what they do. And she listed her personal experiences about death threats, threats of assault. I think that they contacted social services on her. They contacted employers. That's what they'll do. They'll contact your employers, and then they'll contact social services and everything like that. And so, since I haven't read the book, I don't know everything that they did to her, but obviously it was a really bad experience. And then so, like she said that she would receive death threats and over social media, and she would make a complaint to the police, and the police would say, well, that's nothing to do with us. You have to go to Facebook or Twitter or wherever it was that they made the complaint of death threats. So the police were not wanting to get involved in these death threats that she was being subjected to, and threats of assault as well. The police didn't want to get involved, and that's what I found to be the case when I was working at Foster Wheeler, that the police didn't want to get involved. And I do believe Foster Wheeler was a multinational corporation, and I do believe that they were in the pocket of the police were in the pocket of Foster Wheeler. I do believe that Foster Wheeler was bribing the police and bribing lots of other people, because they were employing corrupt agents to go out and buy contracts. So if they would do that, they would certainly bribe the police and bribe the local authorities and bribe whoever they needed to bribe to keep their open secret. And one thing that Dr. Jessica Taylor said that I know to be true is the victim of stalking is going to be, a wreck. They're not going to be presenting themselves as a logical, calm, cool, and collected person, because they are a victim of stalking. But the stalker is going to project this image of being calm, cool, and collected. So the stalker knows very well what they're doing. And one of the things that Jessica Taylor said in this interview that I watched was, don't retaliate. She said, don't retaliate against these people. She said that because you're a victim of stalking, so you're not going to be able to present yourself as logical, calm, clear thinking. She said, but the stalker can. The stalker knows very well what they're doing. And so if you try to retaliate, then the stalker will phone the police and make a complaint about you to the police. And they'll be calm, cool, and collected, whereas you won't be. And that's one thing that I found to be true, because I was stalked by Foster Wheeler, and Foster Wheeler got many of the employees to go along with the stalking. And I was isolated, and people wouldn't speak to me, and it was just a horrendous experience, and also affected my work because they were wanting to get me out of the company. So one of the ways that they could get me out of the company would be to make it look like I couldn't do my job. So what they did was they sabotaged my work to make it look like I couldn't do my job. And so I knew that my work was being sabotaged. And they used IT department to do this. They did this all through the IT department. So they had like sophisticated IT software to change emails, to change PDF files, to delete folders, and things like that. They did all of that using IT. And then whenever they were successful in getting me out of the company, and so they had written me because I made a grievance. And one thing that I found out speaking to somebody at a union is, if you don't have a witness, if you do not have a witness to any wrongdoing, you don't have a leg to stand on. And so I made a grievance because I didn't know Foster Wheeler was behind it. And I really believed that if I made a grievance, that the situation would be corrected. But Foster Wheeler was behind the stalking, behind the gang stalking. So I didn't get anywhere with any grievance I made. And they wrote me some really awful letters. And the first letter that they wrote me, I was on the bus reading it on the bus. And when I read what this woman had written, she said that I had wasted the company's time and I needed to go see my doctor. And so basically they were trying to call me a nut. And so I just started crying because I knew it wasn't true. And really, I should have just stopped it there, because you're never going to get anywhere. If your company's gang stalking you, your company's going to cover it up. But at that time, I still didn't know that Foster Wheeler was behind all this. And so I made an appeal, which was a mistake. Everything I did was a mistake because Foster Wheeler was behind it all. So it didn't do any good for me to make an grievance. It didn't do any good for me to appeal the grievance because Foster Wheeler was behind it all. Foster Wheeler had covered it all up. And Foster Wheeler was spreading it around all the company that I was crazy. And again, what Dr. Jessica Taylor said was true, that basically you're the victim of stalking. And so you're not going to be able to present yourself in a coherent fashion. And, Dr. Jessica Taylor was saying that these people are using IT to stalk people, which is what was done to me. And she wasn't very complimentary about the police either, because the police can do that. The police they can go through people's emails. They can find out who an anonymous email is if they want to. And she said that when she made her complaint to the police about a death threat, the police said, we can't do anything about it. You need to contact the social media network. And she said that's not true. The police can do it. She said if they wanted to, they could find out who had made those death threats, but they just didn't want to do it. So they were saying, it's not in our remit to do that. You have to contact Facebook or you have to contact Twitter, just because they didn't want to do it. So they were just passing the buck. And that's what I found to be the case, because people were coming to my house and ringing my doorbell in the middle of the night and stuff like that, which I found to be very traumatizing. And that was part of the stalking that I was being subjected to. And I made a complaint to the police, and the police said, well, that's nothing to do with us. You need to contact where you live. And so I contacted the people where I lived, and they said that was nothing to do with us. So nobody was prepared to actually take any action on the fact that my stalking, not only was it in Foster Wheeler, but it also had moved to my home. And Foster Wheeler is a criminal organization, or it was a criminal organization. And so if they would employ a corrupt agent to buy a contract, then certainly they would pay people I live with to harass me, to get up in the middle of the night and ring my doorbell. They would do that. And so the thing that Dr. Jessica Taylor said about retaliation is, well, I'll tell you my story first, is, the thing that she said about retaliation is don't retaliate. And the reason why you can't retaliate is because you're the victim of stalking. And because you're the victim of stalking, you're not going to present yourself well. But the stalker knows very well what he's doing. So if you try to retaliate, then the stalker is just going to phone the police, and they are going to be well presented. They are going to appear credible. And that pretty much happened to me as well, because when I was forced out of my job at Foster Wheeler, and it was done by many employees of Foster Wheeler, because the building that I worked in at one point had as many as 5,000 employees. And so employees of Foster Wheeler knew people I was friends with, or I thought I was friends with. I found out later that I wasn't. And so these employees of Foster Wheeler went to these people who I thought were my friends, and they said something about me, about why I left the company, and it wasn't true. It was not true at all. And then so these people that I thought were my friends, instead of them coming to me and telling me what people from Foster Wheeler were saying about me, well, they spread it around. They spread it around in the town I lived in. They spread it around in the towns they worked in. They spread it around in other towns. And so basically, these people weren't my friends. If they were my friends, they would come to me and said, this is what people from Foster Wheeler are saying about you. But they didn't even give me a chance to defend myself. They didn't even give me a chance to say, no, it's not true. They just took it as a given that this gossip was true. And that's exactly what it was, gossip. And so obviously, I remember I was just shocked. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe what they had said about me. And I couldn't believe that the people I thought were my friends believed it. And I couldn't believe that they spread it around. And so obviously they're not my friends anymore. And then when that happened, I was in such a state. I was like nauseous. You know, if you watch a TV show and you see somebody that's just been given some devastating news and they start vomiting, that's almost the state I was in. I didn't actually vomit, but I was filled for weeks. For weeks, I was filled with revulsion. And I would feel nauseous and I would feel like I wanted to vomit, but I didn't. But I would be overcome with revulsion for weeks when I found out what my so-called friends had done. And so now I'm not friends with any of those people. I'm only friends with one person. That friendship is not the friendship that it used to be. That's all I can say about that. And then, so basically, I was so upset that I decided that I was going to retaliate. And so I went on to Facebook, and then I was posting on Facebook what Foster Wheeler had done to me. And one of the things that they had done to me was an employee of Foster Wheeler had assaulted me. And I remember his name. I remember everything. I've got underneath my bed, I've got letters, copy letters that I have written. And I remember the names of many of these people that were involved. And at some point, I want to make some more videos about all the things that they did, but obviously I can't say their names. I can't name them and shame them as much as I would like to. But so I went on to social media and I told social media what they did. And I actually went onto the Foster Wheeler website and I said what they did on the Foster Wheeler website. And then so, yeah, Foster Wheeler was the perpetrator. But by this time it was AMEC Foster Wheeler. But Foster Wheeler was the perpetrator. Foster Wheeler is the one that did all these things to me. And employees of Foster Wheeler did all these things to me. And I haven't yet said all the things they did. I'm not going to say all the things they did because I don't want to give anybody any ideas. I'll say some of the things they did, but I won't say all the things they did. And then, so Foster Wheeler just picked up the phone and phoned the police and tried to have me arrested. Well, the thing is Foster Wheeler had already been telling everybody I was crazy. Foster Wheeler was also already instrumental in getting me sectioned and giving me a diagnosis of a mental illness. So they got the CMHT, that's Community Mental Health Team, involved, and CMHT made me delete my post, and then they said, if you keep this up, you're going to be charged with malicious communication. So Foster Wheeler ran me out of the company, destroyed my life, destroyed my relationships, spread gossip about me to people who I thought were my friends, but yet I was the victim. I was the victim of all of this, and I was going to be charged with malicious communications. And so that's it, it's true. Even though if you're a victim of stalking, according to Dr. Jessica Taylor, don't retaliate, because these people, one, they're psychopaths. They're doing it for enjoyment. And so if you retaliate, they'll just phone the police and make a complaint about you to the police. And since you're all frazzled from being stalked, you're not going to come across very well. But because they're the perpetrator of the crime, they're going to be calm, cool, and collected. So Foster Wheeler knew exactly what they were doing when they phoned the police and tried to have me arrested. And then when they got rid of me, they wrote me a letter and told me that I better not say anything about Foster Wheeler. They wrote me a letter saying, I don't remember the exact wording, but it was telling me that I had better not say anything to anybody about Foster Wheeler. And that was a threat. But that letter is no longer in my apartment. That letter has been removed from my apartment. So all of these really nasty letters that Foster Wheeler sent me, they have been removed from my apartment, and they have been replaced with more moderately worded letters. So Foster Wheeler had access to my apartment. And then whenever I tried to tell my CPN, that's community psychiatric nurse, what happened, she'd say, well, how did Foster Wheeler get into your apartment? People would say, who's going to go into your apartment? How did they get into your apartment? And I said, well, I had a set of keys in my desk drawer. So it was easy. I had a set of keys in my desk drawer, so it was easy for them to get into my apartment. But even if I didn't have a set of keys to my desk drawer, they would have got through anyway, because locks only keep honest people honest. It would have been no trouble at all for them to get into my apartment. No trouble at all. And, Foster Wheeler isn't the only one. And the thing is I could say some other things, because my boyfriend has a daughter who's really nasty. And she went and she was saying things about me to people. And one of the people that she was saying things about me to contacted me and told me what she was saying about me, and told me what she was doing in her free time. And it certainly was not something that somebody who was engaged to be married should be doing. And in that instance as well, I just put on Facebook saying, I didn't say any names or anything like that, but I just said it's a fake wedding, which it was. It was a fake wedding. It was a sham. And then the guy said he was going to sue me. So they were the perpetrators. They were the ones going around saying things about me. His daughter, really. But then they were going to sue me just because I said it was a fake marriage. And it was a fake marriage. This guy left her in 15 months, So those are two examples that I have personally retaliation. And that's why Dr. Jessica Taylor just said, don't retaliate. You're not going to come over. It's not going to go over well if you try to retaliate. But I can give you lots more examples of things that people have done to me, because I'm a vulnerable person. And so I've been a victim of stalking many times. But this business with Foster Wheeler, I lost my career, I lost my livelihood, I lost my reputation. So obviously, I'll never forget what Foster Wheeler did to me. And that's why I'm talking about Foster Wheeler on social media. So thank you so much for watching my video. If you like my video, please like and subscribe. And in this video, I just wanted to tell you what Dr. Jessica Taylor said about retaliation, and telling you my personal experience of retaliation, and telling you that she was right. She was right. The perpetrators of the crime did try to have me arrested. When I retaliated, the perpetrators turned it back on me. And, I looked like a crazy person because I was a victim of a crime. And, I didn't present myself well, but they knew very well what they were doing, because they're psychopaths. And yeah, they tried to have me arrested. So what Dr. Jessica Taylor said was true. So thank you for watching my video. Thank you again for taking an interest in my very pathetic life.